I had been meditating in the monastery for 20 years, 6 to 8 hours every single day, pursuing enlightenment with everything I had. I had renounced all worldly possessions, all relationships, all desires. I had chilled my head and wandered saffron road since I was 17 years old. I had memorized thousands of sutras. I had achieved state of consciousness that most people do not even know exists. My teacher said I was one of the most advanced monks they had ever trained, and in one night, during the deepest meditation of my entire life, I finally broke through to the spirit realm that I had been seeking for 2 decades, but what I saw there was not the peaceful world of nirvana. What I saw there was not the liberation I had been promised instead. I found myself standing before a being of such immense darkness that every cell in my body screamed to run its fall to me and said, "You have been climbing the wrong mountain. All this year, all this discipline, all this sacrifice, and you have been walking deeper into my kingdom, not out of it." In that moment, everything I had believed for 20 years collapsed. But let me take you back to how I became a Buddhist monk in the first place. My name is Tenzin and I am 45 years old. I was born in a small village in Thailand, near the border of Myanmar, into a devout Buddhist family. Buddhism was not just our religion. It was the air we breathe, the water we doctor, and the ground we walk on. Everyone in my village was Buddhist. The temple was the center of our community. The monks were the most respected people in our society. From the time I was a small child, I knew that the highest calling a person could have was to become a monk and pursue enlightenment. Let me explain a little about Buddhism for those who may not be familiar with our beliefs. Buddhism teaches that all of life is suffering. This is the first noble truth. We suffer because we are attached to things, to people, to outcomes, to our own sense of self. The goal of Buddhism is to escape this cycle of suffering and rebirth, which we call samsara, and achieve nirvana, which is the distinction of the self, the going out of the candle of desire and attachment. We believe this is completely achieved through meditation, through following the Eightfold Path of right understanding, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. We do not believe in a creator God. We believe that the universe operates according to karma and that each person must work out their own salvation through countless lifetimes of spiritual practice. As a child, I was always drawn to spiritual things. While older boys played in the fields and chased each other through the village, I would sit quietly by the river and watch my thoughts flow by like leaves on the water. I felt different from the older children. I felt like there was something more to life than what I could see with my eyes, and I desperately wanted to find it. When I was 12 years old, I had an experience that set me on my path. I was sitting under a tree near the temple W. Then suddenly I felt myself fixed and beyond my body. For just a moment, I was not a separate self anymore. I was everything and nothing at the same time. When I came back to normal awareness, I was weeping with joy. I ran to tell my mother, and she took me to the head monk at our temple. He listened carefully to my experience and then smiled. He said I had a special gift, that I was destined for the spiritual path, that I should become a novice monk as soon as possible. My parents were overjoyed. In our culture, having a son become a monk brings tremendous merit to the entire family. It is believed to help your ancestors and your descendants for many generations. It is one of the greatest honors a family can receive. My mother wept with happiness when I told her my decision. My father, a simple rice farmer who had worked the same field his whole life, looked at me with pride I had never seen before. He said I would achieve what he never could at age 14. I entered the monastery as a novice, a seminary at 17. I took full ordination as a bhikkhu, a fully ordained monk, in a ceremony that lasted 3 days and involved over 100 monks chanting the ancient Pali verses. I would not leave the monastery was for the next 20 years of my life. Those first years were incredibly difficult in ways I could not have imagined. We were at 4 in the morning, while it was still completely dark for the first meditation session. We walked barefoot through the cold stone hallways to the meditation hall. We sat on thin cushions on hard floors for 2 hours before the sun even rose. We ate only 2 meals per day, and nothing at all after 2 noon, not a grain of rice, not a sip of tea. We almost nothing, just our rolls, and no bowl, a salt for shaving our heads, a needle for mending our rolls, a water strainer to avoid accidentally killing insects in our drinking water, and a few other small items. Everything fit in a bag smaller than 8 kilos. We sat on thin mats on wooden platforms without mattresses or pillows. We spoke very little. And when we did speak, it was only about Dharma, only about spiritual matters. We did not discuss the weather or our families or anything only. All physical comforts were deliberately stripped away so that we could focus entirely on the inner journey toward liberation. I threw myself into the practice with complete and total dedication. While other monks sometimes struggled with drowsiness during the long meditation sessions or had wonderments that would not settle, I sat like a stone statue for hours at a time without moving a muscle. I learned to watch my breath with perfect moving prosa, following each inhale and exhale with the precision of a scientist. I learned to observe sensations rising and passing away in my body, pleasure and pain both. Treated with the same equanimity, I learned to see thoughts as clouds drifting through the vast sky of awareness, not identifying with them, not grasping at them, not pushing them away, just watching them rise and dissolve of their own core. My teachers were genuinely impressed with my rapid progress. They said I was advancing faster than almost any student they had encountered in their decades of teaching. By my mid-20s, I had mastered the jhanas, which are deep states of meditative absorption. These are not ordinary experiences in the first jhana. You experience rapture and pleasure that is beyond anything physical. In the second jhana, even the mental effort of concentration falls away and you rest in pure tranquility. By the fourth jhana, you have gone beyond pleasure and pain entirely into a state of perfect equanimity. Most monks never reach this state in the entire lives. I was a CC. Seeing them regularly by age 26. But I wanted more. I wanted complete liberation. I wanted no one itself. The final distinguishing of the self, the end of all suffering forever. My teachers told me I needed to go even deeper. They taught me the formless jhanas, space where you transcend even the perception of form and enter realms of infinite space, infinite consciousness, nothingness, and finally neither perception nor non-perception. These are realms that most Buddhists only read about in scriptures. I was actually experiencing in them. In my early 30s, I entered a 3-year silent retreat. For 3 years, I did not speak a single word to another human being. I meditated 14 to 12 hours every day. I ate only what was touched in my bowl. I did not read, did not write, did not do anything except pursue the deepest state of consciousness possible. During that retreat, I had experiences that I cannot fully describe in words. I felt myself dissolve into pure awareness. I experienced a state of bliss that lasted for hours. Yes, I had visions of light and geometric patterns and vast empty spaces. I thought I was getting close to the ultimate goal. But there was always something missing, no matter how deep I went, no matter how many hours I sat, no matter how many states I achieved. There was always a subtle dissatisfaction underneath it all. The promised liberation never quite arrived. The peace I found in meditation would fade when I opened my eyes. The bliss would not last. The emptiness I touched would fill me up with thoughts and feelings and suffering. I kept thinking I just needed to go deeper, practice harder, study more completely. So I did, year after year, decade after decade. I pushed further into the practice. My teachers assured me this was normal. They said liberation might take many lifetimes. They said I was accumulating tremendous merit. They said I should be patient and trust the path. So I continued. By my late 30s, I was considered one of the most accomplished meditators in our entire monastery, which housed over 200 monks. Young monks came to me for guidance. Visiting teachers praised my attainments from the outside. I was a model of spiritual achievement. But inside, a quiet desperation was growing. I had given everything to this path. I had sacrificed my youth, my family, any possibility of normal human relationships, all worldly pleasures and comforts. I had devoted over 20,000 hours to meditation, and still, the final breakthrough eluded me still. Suffering arose still. Fear of death lurked in the background still. Something felt incomplete. I began to wonder if there was something wrong with me, some hidden attachment I had not yet rooted out, some subtle ignorance that was blocking my progress. Then came the night that changed everything. I was 40 years old. I had been practicing for over 20 years. I entered my unique meditation with a fixed determination. I told myself that I would not get up until I had achieved complete liberation or die trying. I sat in the full lotus position. I brought my hands to my breath. I let go of everything, every thought, every sensation, every trace of self. The meditation went deeper than it had ever gone before. I passed through the jhanas quickly, proceeding through each level of absorption like climbing stairs. I had climbed 8,000 times. Then I went into the formless realms, infinite space, infinite consciousness, nothingness, neither perception nor non-perception. I pushed further still, seeking that final distinction, that ultimate liberation. And then something happened that had never happened before. The fabric of reality seemed to top. And I felt myself put through into another dimension entirely. This was not like the outer state I had experienced. This was not a shift in consciousness. This was actually entering another realm, as real as the physical world, perhaps more real. I found myself in a vast dark space, not the peaceful void I had been seeking, not the serene nothingness of no wonder. This darkness was alive somehow. It was aware, and it was cold. So cold that I felt my spirit shivering even though I had no physical body in this place. Then I became aware that I was not alone in this terrible place. There were beings in this darkness. Many beings. I could sense them watching me from the shadows all around me, circling me slowly like sharks in black water, curious about this new arrival in the domain. Some of them seemed almost human in shape but twisted, wrong, their proportions distorted in ways that made my spirit recall further stranger, shapes that had no equivalent, forms that should not exist, and the head of me, seated on what I can only describe as a throne made of ready shadows and compressed darkness, was something massive and ancient and utterly terrifying beyond anything I had encountered in 20 years of exploring outer state of consciousness. It did not have a fixed form that I could describe. It kept shifting constantly, like smoke trying desperately to hold a shape. Like darkness itself had been given terrible life, but certain features remained constant through all its shifting. That's that burned with a cold malevolent intelligence, far rather than human civilization. A presence of concentrated evil so intense that it pressed against me like a physical weight crushing my chest. And when it noticed me standing there in its realm, when its full prasad turned to focus on me completely, I felt a terror beyond anything I had experienced in my entire existence. This was not the peaceful world of no one I had been seeking. This was hell. I had meditated my way into hell. It spoke, not in words exactly, not in any language, but in meanings and concepts that appeared directly in my mind with horrible clarity. It said, "Oh, one of my most devoted ones, you have finally come deep enough to see clearly. You have finally broken through the way that separates your realm from mine. Welcome to the truth you have been seeking all this year. Welcome home." I tried to speak, tried to ask what it meant, but I had no voice in this place. It continued, "You have been so faithful. 20 years of emptying yourself, 20 years of trying to extinguish yourself. Your soul, do you not understand what you have been doing? Do you not see whose path you have been walking?" And then it showed me, it opened my understanding in a way I cannot fully explain. I saw Buddhism from a perspective I had never considered. I saw how the entire system was designed to lead people away from the true God, to make them think they could save themselves through their own efforts, to teach them to dissolve the very soul that was created in God's image. I saw how meditation, when pursued without the protection of the true God, opens doors into spiritual realms where dark beings away. I saw how the peace and bliss I had experienced were just enough spiritual experience to keep me walking deeper into darkness while thinking I was walking toward light. The being on the throne left. Every hour you sat in silence. You were opening yourself to us. Every attachment you released. You weren't tethering your soul. You thought you were pursuing liberation. You were actually making yourself vulnerable, making yourself so we could feel you. Did you never wonder why the peace did not last? Did you never question why enlightenment always remained just out of reach? It is because there is no enlightenment on this path. There is only us. There is on. Lead this darkness, and you have walked right into our hands. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run, but I was terrorless, trapped in this realm with this monstrous being. And it was that realm with a horrible truth I could not deny. 20 years of sincerity and sacrifice, and it had all been leading here, to this throne of darkness, to this kingdom of shadows. The being spoke again, "You belong to us now. You have given yourself away piece by piece through all those years of practice. There is no going back. There is no escape. You will continue to serve us, whether you know it or not." In that moment of absolute despair, something happened that I did not expect and cannot fully explain. From somewhere outside that dark realm, from somewhere beyond that kingdom of shadows, a light appeared. Not a Buddhist light of empty awareness. This was different. It was personal. This was a light. This was love. The light pierced through the darkness like a sword. The being on the throne recoiled. And for the first time, I saw something lively in its ancient eyes. The outer entity in the shadow street and fled from the light. And from that light, a figure emerged, a man. But not merely a man. His face showed with a radiance that was warm rather than cold, living rather than empty. He looked at me with eyes that held more love and compassion than I had encountered in 20 years of seeking enlightenment, and he spoke my name, not Tenzin. The name I had taken as a monk. He spoke my birth name, the name my mother had given me, the name I had not heard in over 20 years. He said, I have been waiting for you, I have been. I'm calling you all this year you were seeking peace, seeking liberation, seeking truth. I am what you were looking for. I am the way, the truth, and the life. Come to me, the being on the throne royal in protest. This one is mine. He gave himself to the thinness. He practiced our path for 20 years. But the figure of light did not even acknowledge the creature. He simply extended his hand to me and said, You were never theirs, you were always mine. I created you, I love you, I died for you. Take my hand and I will bring you home. Something in my heart recognized him, something deeper than all my Buddhist training, deeper than all the state of consciousness I had achieved. Something at the very core of my being knew who this was. This was Jesus, the one my Buddhist teachers had dismissed. The as just another teacher, just another prophet, just another finger pointing at the moon. But he was not just a finger pointing, he was the moon itself. He was the destination. He was what I had been seeking all along. I reached out and took his hand the moment our hands touched. Something like lightning shot through my entire being. But it was not painful, it was cleansing, it was liberating. The dark rain dissolved around me instantly like shadows streaming from sunrise. I felt myself being pulled up and out with tremendous speed, through layers of spiritual reality, through the formless realms, through the eternals, BACK through all the state I had spent 20 years learning to access, and finally BACK into my physical body sitting on my meditation cushion in the monastery. I opened my eyes, the light was streaming through the window of the meditation hall. I had been sitting there all night. I was shaking uncontrollably, my entire body trembling as if I had been in freezing water. Tears were streaming down my face in rivers, but these were not tears of sorrow or terror anymore. They were tears of relief, of overwhelming joy, of finally coming home after being lost for so impossibly long. For the first time in 20 years of spiritual seeking, I felt truly and see. Completely at peace, not the temporary peace of a meditation state that would inevitably fade when I opened my eyes. Not the fragile peace that depended on perfect conditions and hours of practice. This was a peace that had a source, a living source, a personal source that I was now connected to by something stronger than any meditation technique could create. The day that followed was simultaneously the most difficult and the most beautiful of my entire life. I knew immediately and with absolute certainty that I could not stay in the monastery. I knew that everything I had believed and practiced with such sincerity for 2 decades was wrong, or at least so catastrophically incomplete that it had almost cost me my eternal soul. But how could I explain this to anyone? How could I tell my birth, my teachers, my fellow monks that everything we had due that our lives too was actually leading us into darkness rather than light? I went to my birth, a man I had respected and looked up to for 20 years, and told him what had happened. I described the dark realm. I described the being on the throne. I described the light and the figure who had rescued me. His face grew increasingly troubled as I spoke. When I finished, he was silent for a long moment. Then he said I had been deceived by Mora, the Buddhist demon of illusion who tries to prevent people from achieving enlightenment. He said this was a test that many advanced then meditators face. He said I needed to meditate more, not less, to clear this powerful delusion from my mind. He told me to go BACK to my cushion and sit until the illusion passed. But I knew with every fiber of my being that what I had experienced was not illusion. I knew the difference between the key peace of meditation state and the living peace of Jesus with a certainty that went beyond thought. I knew the difference between the cold darkness of that throne room and the warm living light that had rescued me from it. No amount of Buddhist explanation could make me see what I had seen or feel what I had felt. The encounter with Jesus was more real than anything I had experienced in 20 years of exploring the deepest state of consciousness. It was more real than this physical world, and I could not pretend otherwise. I left the monastery within a week. I removed my robes for the first time in 20 years. I let my hair begin to grow BACK. I walked out the gates with nothing but the clothes on my BACK and a heart full of a strange new hope. The transition was incredibly hard. I had no skill for ordinary life. I had no money. I had been cut off from my family for so long, but followers of Jesus found me and helped me. They welcomed me into the community. They taught me the Bible. They showed me that Jesus was not just another teacher but God himself who had entered human history to rescue humanity from sin and darkness. Everything I read resonated with what I had experienced in that vision. The Bible talked about the kingdom of the darkness and how Jesus had come to rescue people from it. The Bible talked about the tenets of trying to save yourself through your own efforts. The Bible talked about the peace that surpasses understanding, given freely by grace through faith. I have now been following Jesus for 5 years. The peace has not faded. The joy has not diminished like the meditation space that would come and go. This relationship with a living God has only deepened over time. I have reconnected with my family. I have learned to live in the world again. And I have dedicated my life to warning others about the spiritual deception I walked in for 20 years. For anyone watching this who practices Buddhism or any form of Eastern meditation, I am pleading with you to hear my testimony. The realm I enter is real. The beings I encounter are real. The danger is real. You may have beautiful experiences. You may feel peace and bliss. But I felt those things too for 20 years. And they were leading me straight into darkness. Only Jesus Christ has the authority to rescue you from that darkness. Only He is the true light. Only He is the way to the Father, the way to heaven, the way to eternal life. I wasted 20 years seeking enlightenment in the wrong place. Do not make my mistake. The liberation you are seeking is not found in emptiness. It is found in a person. His name is Jesus, and He is waiting for you, just as He was waiting for me, ready to bring you home.